Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So we've got BB-8 and Itty Bitty Yoda here to help me review Rogue One. So this is the first time we're getting into one of these anthology films, these Star Wars story films, whatever they're calling them these days. And it was a big experiment for Disney to do this. We're venturing away from the episodes, we're venturing away from the Skywalker lineage, and I really think this was a very big risk. After seeing the movie, I think it was even a bigger risk, but one that pays off in spades. So I think this movie is fantastic. So let's just go ahead, talk about all the great things it gets right first. First of all, the performances are all really strong. I think there were a couple background characters that weren't so great, but they got pushed out of the way pretty quickly. Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso was really good. I think she brought a lot of believability into the character. She was the right amount of that badass warrior girl and somebody who's actually hurting and has had a rough go of it throughout their life. And I thought she balanced it all so well. I think she brought so much to the role of Jyn and really made her a character worth rooting for. I also really liked Diego Luna. I thought he was very good. Once again, played a very complex character very well. And Forrest Whitaker doesn't actually have a whole lot of screen time, but as usual, I mean, he kills it when he's on. I really enjoyed the voice inflection that he put on for the role. I thought that was great, and I think he just delivered what we wanted him to deliver. But the two characters and actors that really stole the show for me were Alan Tudyk, who, if you didn't know, plays Kay. He was hilarious. I thought he was a great robot. I'm not sure why these robots in Star Wars are so sassy, from C-3PO and R2-D2. BB-8 wasn't really sassy. He was just kind of adorable. But now we have this new robot, and he was extremely sassy, but also extremely funny. I loved all of his one-liners. I think he pretty much hit every single joke that he went for. And the other standout for me was Donnie Yen. What an awesome character he played here. One, he stole the action sequences he was a part of, and he added a whole familiar depth to the story. He was the Force-sensitive person on our hero team. I think that was a really needed component. We needed that kind of grounding. We needed some element of the Force on the good side, and he brought it. And speaking of Donnie Yen stealing action scenes, the action here was fantastic. These scenes were shot so well. They were thrilling, they were realistic, they were gritty. They just all were amazing. Every single action scene was amazing. I also love what they did with the special effects here. This looked like a Star Wars film, down to the fact that they kind of did throwback technology. We had the ships, the layering of the ships that we saw in the original Star Wars trilogy, because clearly they didn't have the technology we have now, but it never looked dated. It never looked like, oh, this came straight from the 70s. No, it felt very much like a 2016 film, but it also felt very much like a Star Wars film from the original trilogy, which is a testament to how well those films hold up. Also, can I say, I loved Darth Vader in this movie. He is my favorite movie villain of all time, and he did not disappoint. How I missed such a rich, awesome, menacing villain in cinema. It's been a while since we've had that. And as much as I loved Episode 7, Kylo Ren is no Darth Vader. But not only did this movie look like a Star Wars film, with elements of Vader and some of the other characters in here, the action sequences, the grittiness of it all, it felt like Star Wars. You felt like this is it. We're back in the original trilogy. I think it makes a great lead-in into A New Hope. And earlier, I mentioned how big of a risk doing this film was, because we're going back into a prequel, and we know how well received the last prequels were. But this time, they mostly dealt with characters we didn't know. So while we do know the end result of what ultimately happens in the end here, because A, we've seen the other films, we don't know what happens to each individual character because we've never met them before. We don't know what their story is outside of this singular film. So I think that that was a great way to make a prequel and still make it suspenseful and still make the audience want to know more when it comes to these characters. But it's also a huge risk because this movie is very dark. I think this is right up there with The Empire Strikes Back and Revenge of the Sith as the darkest of the Star Wars films. I actually think it's darker than The Empire Strikes Back. It doesn't have that hugely open-ended, ominous ending, but it goes really into some dark places, and I have to commend them because this was a fresh tone to the Star Wars universe, and I really enjoyed it. Plus, the score was great. It wasn't John Williams, but it almost felt like it was composed by John Williams. He used a lot of the riffs from some of the Williams music in both the prequels and the original films. And of course, we had some of the classic John Williams Star Wars themes. So I really enjoyed that score as well. So if I had to choose negatives for this film, there's not going to be many if I'm being honest. But I think there may have been one too many cameos. Some of them felt like pure fan service. And it kind of made me feel like maybe all of these smaller cameos that take place and all of these little Easter eggs that happen were shoehorned in as part of the reshoots when people didn't have a great response to the original screenings. So they went way overboard and were like, oh my gosh, give them Star Wars, give them stuff they know. And while they're always fun, and seeing those little things is always fun, you kind of are like, okay, I mean, that was fun, but it really didn't need to be there. And again, I think when you add too many characters from the other films, you shrink your universe a little bit. And my only other complaint is that this is a long film. And I think in that second act, part of it starts to drag. I think it opens with a bang, it closes with a bang, and it has a lot of bangs in that second act, but then it goes on a lull. So there are a couple too many lulls in the film, and I think it starts to drag a little bit much there in the middle before it regains its footing and like full throttle to the end of the film. But really, I loved this movie. This is Star Wars. And I'm so glad that since Disney has taken over Lucasfilm, they have delivered 2 fantastic Star Wars movies. This makes me really want to go back and watch episode 4, 5, and 6 again because it put me right back into that world. It put me right back into that action. And anything to expand the universe of Star Wars is a positive for me, and this just expanded a part of the history that we've already known happened but didn't get to see. So I loved it. It makes me really excited for all of these other Star Wars stories, and it also obviously makes me excited for the episodes moving forward. So if you didn't guess it, I give this a full price ticket. So are you excited for Rogue One? Have you already seen Rogue One? If you did, comment down below and let me know what you thought of the film. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!